try to gain absolute mastery over the sexual instinct. If one succeeds in doing this, a physiological change is produced in the body by the development of a hitherto rudimentary nerve known as medha, the function of which is to transmute the lower energies into the higher. The knowledge of the higher self is gained after the development of this medha nerve. I have nothing to comment on whether actually, physically, biologically, physiologically, a nerve is produced in the body. I am not a student of the human anatomy, so I cannot authoritatively comment on this. But in a mental sense, I can surely say that your very face changes. The face is a part of your anatomy, is it not? The very face changes when the mind changes. If your mind is occupied with sexual thoughts, lust, temptations, greed, evil, violence, incompleteness, then that shows upon your face also. Even kids realize that. They look at somebody's face and they get attracted, and they look at another face and they run away. Even animals know that. They know that by your very scent. They know that by your very being. You go to little animals, and if you are a really peaceful man, they would come to you on their own. And if you are a flesh eater, if you are a violent man, the animals just run away from you. And you have yet not done anything to them. Still they run away from you. Because it is there on your face, it is there in your body odor. That violence radiates from you. Animals can read that. Even babies can read that. You go to an animal with an evil intention, chances are the animal will try to run away and save its life, even if you are pretending to be a benevolent approacher. Are you getting it? Man fails to see that because man's eyes are covered with social education. We fail to see the direct fact of somebody's personality. We fail to read into somebody's eyes. A saint does that very nicely. There is that humorous story of a student of Buddha. He came to Buddha and said, I am now well versed in all the disciplines. I have learnt everything that you had to offer. So I now want to go out. I want to graduate out of your ashram. Buddha said, fine. But before that, why don't you go and meet one of my bhikshunis? He says, fine. So there was this bhikshuni. Who is a bhikshuni? A lady hermit. And he goes to her. And she lived at a high place. One had to approach through a flight of stairs. And the fellow is climbing up. And he comes to her and he is thinking, it's hot and I'm tired and sweating. And she comes to him and offers a towel. He says, great, she's giving me exactly what I needed. But won't it be better if I get some cool water also? And immediately some water comes. He has not yet expressed his desire. He says, good luck. Everything that I am wishing for is coming to me. So she says, how have you been, man? And I've heard that you have been an excellent learner with the master. So I'm glad to welcome you here. Why don't you just sit down and relax? So he sits down and relaxes for a while, and then he thinks, but it's time for some food now. But what food can this lonely woman offer me? I'm accustomed to having good food And within the next few minutes, she comes in with exactly the kind of food he could have hoped for. Now, he starts feeling a little something. What's going on? The moment he thinks what's going on, she says, no, nothing is going on. You just enjoy your food. The fellow can barely take in a bite or two. Even before he can finish his lunch, he gets up and runs away. And he goes to the Buddha. Buddha said, I asked you to spend 3 days with her. You have returned within 3 hours. What's the matter? He says, no, you tell me what's going on. And Buddha says, when your own mind has fallen silent, when your own mind has become still, then you can read the movement all around. Please understand this principle. If you are sitting at a still place, then you can detect everything that is moving around you. When your own mind has fallen silent, then you can read the mind of others. When you are silent, then you can hear everything, can't you? Whereas if you yourself are making a lot of noise, would you be able to detect what the others are saying? Similarly, when you are still, you can see all the movement around you. So, Buddha says, she is an example of a graduate. She has really graduated. Now you ask yourself whether you are fit for graduation. He says, I am prepared to spend more time with you. Buddha says, before you spend more time with me, you go and firstly spend 2 more days with her. He says, that I cannot do. You must forgive me. Thoughts of all kinds come to a man's mind. And in front of me, she is reading my mind. Why are you pushing me into embarrassment? I just cannot face her. You keep me with yourself for 2 years. I'm all right. But don't send me to that woman. I do not know whether the Buddha insisted on completion of the 2 remaining days. But you get the point of the story, right? The face can be read. The mind can be read. On the outside, you are how you are from the inside. It is not without reason that you look at this picture. What do you see around the head of the deity? What do you see? Do you see a halo, an aura? That aura is not just a symbol. It is in some ways actual. When you look at the face of a free and peaceful and realized and silent being, you actually do see an aura. That does not mean that light is radiating out of some source from the head. That would violate the laws of physics. It is not as if the deity would walk into a dark room and there would be light in the room. Not that way, but something else. An aura is definitely there. You actually do see light when you look at the face of a Jesus or a Buddha. There is light there. Are you getting it? Change your life, your face will change for certain. Every cell of your body changes. When you become peaceful, your physiology indeed does change. Many diseases are taken care of.
So how much does this piece reflect as you personally also there is something on my mind and I enter your room, even if I'm not asking you anything, this goes right. And there have been a lot of stories like this also. That whenever saints normally just used to passing through a village, the animals used to calm down and the people who were sick they used to get treated out immediately. But again, this is was crucified by the same people around which. So, how much does this reflect in people?
There might be a great aura around the face of the deity, but you need to be not totally blind to view that aura. That is the first thing. Second thing is, you might actually perceive that aura and be threatened by it. There are three kinds of people then. One, who do not perceive that aura at all because they are blind. Now, among those who do perceive that aura, there are two kinds of responses. The first and the usual response is, this man is a threat. There is something unusual about him. Kill him. Only the very rare few perceive that aura and appreciate that aura. Once I said that out of 100 people, 90 are those who would not know that a Jesus is a Jesus. They would not know that Jesus is Christ. They would say, oh, he is just an ordinary shepherd. They don't have the eyes to really detect a Jesus. Now, out of the 10 people who are able to see something extraordinary in Jesus, 9 would say that this man is extraordinary, so let's rather avoid him or let's possess him. Only 1 out of 100 would say, this man is extraordinary, let us be devoted to him. So just because you have perceived the extraordinariness of a Jesus, it does not mean that you would come prostrating to him. In fact, sometimes you will become an enemy of Jesus exactly because you have known him to be extraordinary. He is extraordinary and therefore he stands for something that is opposed to me. He is extraordinary and therefore he is a threat. So let's kill him. 90 people will say, he is not extraordinary at all. He is so ordinary. So they are not really a danger. They will be indifferent to the realized man. 9 people will say, oh yes, there is something special about him, but exactly because there is something special about him, let us kill him. He is different, so let us kill him. 1 out of 100 will say, he is special, he is extraordinary, and he deserves my highest admiration. Are you getting it?
You've said this multiple times before. You said, Krishna ko samadne ke liye bhi Krishna ko agar.
Yes. Jesus says, I am the truth, the way and life, me and my Father are one. Unless you are one with the Father of Christ, how will you realize Christ?
This gathering here, is it that 1 out of 100?
That you have to see. That 1 out of 100 is not a predetermined or pre-appointed entity. People move, people change. In the morning you can belong to the 90s. In the afternoon you can belong to the 9. By the evening you can belong to the 1. Are you getting it? The mind keeps changing. You could be someone in the morning who stones a saint, and by evening you could be someone who lays down his life for a saint. So at this moment, this gathering is one particular mind. 2 days after the camp is over, which is 4 days from today, I do not know what this gathering would be like. That is why constantly keeping good company is absolutely important. Here you are one person. A week later you would be a very different person. If I click a photograph right now, your face is very different compared to your Facebook DP. In fact, if you put this face on your social media, many might just refuse to acknowledge you. You are looking innocent, you are even looking younger. Your face right now bears no trace of any pain. Right now your face is that of a person free of all suffering. But would you remain like this? I do not know.
Sir, this 79 में इसमें bracket में लिखा है, the functioning of its transmit the lower energy into the higher. It's whatever you say with the aura of that act. And you are raised from all the energy that on the human are concentrated on the Muladhara chakra. Then it can be raised something by Kundalini, whatever by yoga and all.
Energy is something physical. There is nothing really, materially called chakras in the human body. You dissect the entire body, you will not find any chakra or anything. So materially they do not exist, they are symbols. When you talk of the Mooladhara chakra, you are only saying that the mind devotes a lot of its energy to its basic instincts. Mooladhara chakra denotes the circle, the enclosure of your basic biological sexual activity. Right? It is called the lowest chakra because man keeps thinking all the time of sex. And when man is thinking of sex, then it is great bondage. Hence it is called as the lowest state.
There's a yogi that that's why saying that yogis are always saying that you raise that by yogs and all.
Why say raise chakra and all? Simply say purify your thoughts. By talking of Mooladhara chakra, you have put your concern elsewhere. Now you are saying that the chakra is responsible for your suffering, not your own mind. It is as if there is something wrong with the chakra. What is the chakra? The chakra is there in the mind. Is there anything called the Mooladhara chakra when you are sleeping? The chakra is a figment of your consciousness. It's an idea. So rather directly talk of the idea. Why talk of an object in the idea? Talk of the mother of all ideation, and that is the mind. It's like this. You say that the world is the dog of God. And just as Ramakrishna has said that you should not be attached to the dogs, one must avoid the world. Now you take that literally, and what do you start doing? Instead of looking at your mind, instead of avoiding the rubbish in your mind, you start avoiding dogs. And a cult can grow around dog bashing. They will have temples in which the Saturn is represented by a dog. Now what have you done? You have shifted the blame elsewhere. Instead of looking at your mind all the time, now you are looking for dogs. Now, instead of looking directly into your life, you are looking around for chakras. Is this chakra rising? Is this chakra falling? With some kind of a measuring tape, you are always measuring where is the chakra. Like a woman obsessed with her inches, always measuring her waist, always measuring the Mooladhar area. The Mooladhar area is the hips. What are you doing? Why not directly talk of the real thing? That is the mind. All of these are colorful, captivating representations. The three serpents in your spine, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. What a representation. And the three have different colors. One is yellow, one is blue, one is red, one is something else, and then the other is something else. And then they are opening into the cavity of the brain. And then there is a small hollow right up the head, the Brahmarandhra. All of that is nice imagery, but don't be taken in by it. That is just imagery. You don't have any snake back there. Snakes are not so obsessed with human beings.